Today, let's discuss yesterday's video about Japan and America with the downgrade, but let's do it from the Japanese point of view. Now, yes, I put up the video yesterday concerning the downgrade on the U.S. bonds, but this morning in the Japanese news in two papers were these two articles. So the Prime Minister of Japan came out yesterday and said, hey, we can't have tax cuts because of our debt. Now, the reason they're talking the tax cuts, as we know, is that we're going to impose these tariffs on Japan, which would slow down their economy. So the tax cuts are there to get the economy moving in the face of these tariffs. But the Prime Minister, as you see here, compared themselves to Greece in not a flattering light. I believe that he says, the Prime Minister, that the debt is like 235% for Japan versus 142 or 143 for Greece. And he says it's just not a good idea to fund tax cuts with Japanese bonds. And here in the middle paragraph, you can see where the Japanese government debt as a percent of the GDP is 234.9 versus 142.2 for Greece. So basically, how do you have tax cuts to jumpstart the economy when all you can do is print more government bonds for them? So also I think this is the Japan Times, they said last Thursday and Friday's talks with the U.S. administration, they did not, at the time, percent did not force them to ratchet up the Japanese yen. So as we mentioned, we want the yen to go up. And it was in this meeting, the percent reiterated that they want a stronger yen against the dollar, what Trump has repeatedly said, even though they did not give a specific exchange rate at this meeting. And Kato, who was the Japanese negotiator, said there's no discussion of a target for exchange rate levels. But he did not say much about the specific demands the U.S. side made. So, they're keeping it secret. And they mention here in the article that the U.S. is literally going out trying to force everyone to strengthen their currencies and weaken against the dollar. And if you look at the last sentence paragraph there, it's all based on Stefan Moran, who's considered Trump's top economic brain, who referred to the envisioned Mar-a-Lago Accord and cooperating in weakening the dollar. Okay, so this is what it's all about. But percent in the United States, now we're a little more wary because of what happened that Monday, okay, when basically the bond market in America fell apart. And they call it the triple weakness, where the stocks, the bonds, and the dollar all declined simultaneously. And so they do not want this triple weakness again, but we definitely want them to weaken or strengthen their currency. They talk about the meeting here, but the important line is the last paragraph here, where Japan says we cannot take an optimistic view just because Japan got through the meeting this time without a specific target for the yen, all right? So think about what would happen there. If the United States and Japan came out and said, we think the yen-dollar exchange rate should be this, guess what? That's where it's going, like in a second. So, going back to the Prime Minister, it's already where the BOJ, this is the Fed for Japan, owns 52% of all government bonds Japan has issued, right? So again, if they cut taxes, they have to issue more bonds. They're going to own a bigger percent. It's just the way it goes. And when you look at the dollar, if it breaks down from here, we are looking at maybe like 92, 93 on it, which would be quite a move. And when you look at the yen, if it drops down here, which is up, okay, if it drops down into the 120 range here, right, you can easily see that could happen. Maybe 130 would be the bottom of that channel. So The charts are saying that we could drop down, pretty substantially in the dollar, and the yen go up pretty substantially. Now, there's a host of other problems here. Obviously, they do polls in Japan, and like 78% of the people in Japan, they don't even want to come to an agreement with America. 31% think that they're going to be something good to come out of these negotiations. So, as a politician, you get elected. And right now, the populace in Japan is like, don't negotiate. We don't care. Tell them no, all right? So what's going to happen here, because they're saying that? And then the next thing, another thing happened in the Philippines. There was a standoff. There's two main families, which represent two different political parties, the Marcos and the Duartes, okay? And even though Duarte's under attack with the ICC for the extrajudicial killings of the drug dealers and so forth, there still was an election last week for a mayor between the Duarte and the Marcos. And this was considered, where does the country stand on these two parties, okay? And everyone fully expected Marcos to win. Well, not only did Duarte win, the voting was something like 550,000 to 60,000, all right? Marcos got wiped out. And you say, well, why is this important? Well, Marcos is a decidedly pro-American, let's get in the American, cut the deal, bring back the military into the Philippines and everything. Where Duarte was more of a strategic neutrality between China and America. He didn't believe that the Philippines should take either side. So is this reflective, this little re-election, of how the Filipinos are thinking? I don't know. I'm not a Filipino expert. I'm just talking about the election last week. Now, they make this even more confusing. Trump just came out and said, we don't have the bandwidth to negotiate with everybody. So if you don't cut a deal with us in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're just going to name the tariffs. We're just going to say, this is what your tariffs are. Now, anybody who followed me on this channel knows that if we maintain our tariffs at the level that they're at, or actually higher, because they're going to be higher. Trump's not going to be going in there to lower the tariffs, okay? If we maintain our stance on the tariffs, and the tax bill just made it through the committee when the 4 Republican representatives said they were only present, they didn't vote no. All right, so they passed along this tax bill. And, it's just my opinion. But if we have those tariffs in place and we dictate the tariffs to the rest of the world, not negotiate, that's what he said. We're just going to dictate. And Bessent was on television 3 or 4 programs yesterday saying exactly the same thing. We're going to dictate, okay? So if we pass the taxes and we dictate the rest of the tariffs, I don't think the dollar or our bonds are going to make it through. I don't know. That's just one man's opinion. What do you think? Are we going to make it through? No one's going to care? Or we'll make it through, but our interest rates go up? What do you think? Tell me in the comments and like and follow.